connecting. And then I see us popping in. I think we might be good.
Oh wait, let me change. Oh, can I change my name on
There we
here?
go.
I
We're
don't know
on.
why my name's all messed up. Sorry.
You're good.
Okay.
That's funny. That's actually kind of funny. Um, yes, the name is showing, so let's change. I mean, that really is our jobs as coaches, though. I think that's a good intro.
As
Is
far,
we are caregivers, right?
yeah, no, it was from a reel I was recording so that my social media manager knew which reel it was.
Yes, that's awesome. That's a great intro. I didn't even notice that until you just said that. But Bradley, so excited that you could make it on here, man. I appreciate you being so flexible and just taking the time even. I know you're a super busy guy and you got a lot going on, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that there's a lot of coaches out there that can identify with maybe the ups and downs that you guys have experienced, talk about a lot of the different things that you guys have overcome and conquered. And then we've got Felicity on here as well. So
What's
Felicity's
up,
going to grill
Felicity?
you with all the hard questions here in a little bit. So
What's up,
I just
girl?
kind of want to start out, I think. What's up, Felicity? I just want to start out, I think, by first asking um, for you to kind of give us like a little bit of a backstory on just 30,000 foot view, how you got your start in the fitness industry, and then let's kind of like navigate from there.
I mean, how long is this live gonna be? Y'all got some time? Pull up a seat. If it's you guys are watching it
Let's
in the
hey,
evening,
let's
grab a
let,
cocktail. If it's the first thing you're watching in the morning, make sure you get a double cup of coffee. How did
yeah,
I get started in the industry? So once upon a time, in my early 20s, I was a kindergarten teacher. I taught at a private Jewish school. I taught for about 2.5 years. Job kind of fell into my lap. I'd always worked with children. I used to run a summer camp way back when for special needs kids. The teaching job fell into my lap. Lasted for about 2.5 years before I was like, I cannot do this. And it had nothing to do with the kids. It had to do with the parents.
yeah,
So I went back to school, and I went back to school in my I would have been 21, I think, when I went back. And I was like, all right, it's time to like actually take this seriously. Finish up my associates or whatever in community college. When I got to 4 year, I had in mind I was going to do marketing. So I got my degree in communications with a soft minor in marketing, and I thought throughout that whole time I had a really close friend who he essentially pioneered social media marketing when it was coming out, and he had a big contract with Transamerica, so I was going to work at Transamerica. Long story short, my interview with Transamerica was before I actually had my degree in hand. It was 3 months before. Went there. I thought it was the way it was pitched to me, it was going to be a slam dunk. Pretty much I could show up, and didn't matter if I had a nose piercing and tattoos all over my face and I could barely speak English. I had the job. That wasn't the case.
yeah,
And they were going to pay me $60,000 a year, working me like a mule. And at the
yeah.
time, when I went back to school, I was still in school for about 6 months. Excuse me, I was still teaching for about 6 months while I was in school, and I was like, I can't do both. So I got my personal training cert from ISSA, and I just started pulling clients out of the school, and I was doing that. Um, by the time I graduated, I was making, I was on track to make over $60,000 a year working, I think 20 hours a week or 15 hours a week with private clients. And my dad, he was the one who convinced me. He goes, well, you can fall back on your degree. It's like, why don't you just try running your own business? Wish I would. Then I was like, okay. I never really realized till way later in life. I'm like, oh, I come from parents that are both entrepreneurs. My dad was in the garment industry. My mother was a celebrity florist. Um, so that's how I kind of got into it. I was a personal trainer all the way up until COVID. I went from grunt work, making 25 $50 a session, working on my own. I never worked for anybody. The last job I had where I was working for somebody was my teaching job. So I was 22 years old the last time I worked for somebody.
Wow.
Grew that to a point where I was like, I needed a gym, so I started renting space out of a gym called Muscle Mechanics, which was on La Cienega in Beverly Hills. Um, Walked in, I was a guppy. Within the first 6 months, I went from paying per session to being one of, I think, half a dozen of the trainers that were just monthly trainers, as many sessions as possible. It was one of the scariest things in my life. It was the first time I had actual overhead. Um, Eventually, I outgrew my britches there, and I Sofitel, which is right across the street, had a very, very private gym. Um, I essentially took over their gym program. Um, there was 5 trainers. That's where I was right before COVID. The jump was drastic in price, um, and everything was slowly just shifting and not doing well. I mean, I was at the peak of my training career. It was one of those moments also where I realized I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm from charging $25 an hour to $75 an hour to $125 an hour to $250 an hour to charging astronomical prices for in-home sessions, charging $800 an hour for in-home sessions, and it was like I couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah.
So I tried to open 2 different gyms. Um, what would happen is I would secure funding for about 50%. Other 50 would fall through, and then COVID hit, and the COVID
Hmm.
stripped everything from me in 14 days. And at that point, my ex-wife was pregnant. We were a single income household. Um, Baby on the way, and that's how Nutrition Built Strength was born. That's how it was born, man. It was
Yeah.
out of it was fight or flight, and it wasn't. Don't For those of you that are listening, it wasn't like I got you know just sucker punch to the face with COVID. And I was like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. Absolutely fucking not. First of all, I had an Instagram at the time, had, I don't know, 18,000, 20,000 followers, making zero money. I got so frustrated with it. I deleted it like a year prior. I had no online presence.
Hmm.
And it wasn't like COVID hit and I realized there was no end in sight that I, just took life by the balls. And no, for probably about I would say it wasn't 2 weeks. It was longer than that. Probably 3 to 4 weeks. I pretty much
You just searched.
no. Would wake up. I would open up a computer. I would stare aimlessly, and I would be blackout drunk. Not blackout drunk, but not sober by 2 o'clock at the latest every
Yeah.
day. And then one day I was like, I got to figure this shit out. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
there you
then
go.
and then really I think that's the theme of you guys' story, right? You and your now fiance Jennifer. You guys have throughout your story and throughout I've kind of gotten to work very closely with you guys building out, your business and your CRM, like everything that we've got going on AR funnel. And you guys have several kind of points like this where your back was up against the wall. And I think it is important for other coaches in the industry to kind of hear about that, right? Because I feel like every coach, especially an online coach, at some point or another is going to question whether they should have gotten like a job. You know what I mean? Like should have quit. And you're going to question that, newsflash, spoiler alert, you're going to question that a lot.
Baker,
Okay.
Baker, you and I just talked. It was last week. I literally
Yes.
talked to you last week, and I was like, bro, why don't I just get a 9 to 5 job?
Yeah,
Like,
well, Mike talks about that
why?
too. Mike talks about that too. Of like, there's times where throughout his entrepreneurial journey, and I know I've had a lot of the same things of like, you go to dinner with a friend that's been working a 9 to 5 for 5, 10 years, and you are sitting on one side of the table, like being jealous of the stability and the predictability, and like them not having to worry, them being able to be done at 4 or 5 o'clock at night, not have to worry about it until Monday morning again, and they're sitting on that side of the table a little bit like wanting to be you, wanting to be able to set their own schedule and have all the like glamorous things that you see.
Glamorous.
Or, yeah, that you like think are really involved in entrepreneurship. And so it is funny how the grass is always going to be greener no matter what. But you're not really doing entrepreneurship right if you're not questioning that type of stuff on a regular
No,
basis.
1,000%. I forget. It's gonna drive me crazy. I'll text you later so you can put a link to it. There's a book I just read probably like 2 months ago, and it's a story of 2 CEOs, and the whole premise, like what it gets down to, is that a good CEO doesn't want his or her job. And I read that. I'll never forget that I was on a plane, I was reading it, and I went, wow, like that's the first time in the 4 going on 5 years that nutrition build strength has been a thing that I actually felt like, okay, I do have what it takes for this job.
Yeah.
I have no traditional training on running a company. I have no business background. I don't have that. But a true CEO, a true entrepreneur, the reason you don't want your job, you know what your job is? Your job is to have all the hard conversations. Your
Hmm.
job is to take all the big risks. Your job is to do all the shit that nobody wants to. That's your job. And your job is to make it so that your work environment, for everybody that works for you, they don't see the shit that you do,
Yep.
because the shit that you do sucks, which is why, yeah, there's a lot about your job that you're not going to like. But
Yep.
your job as a CEO, as if you're going to really want to grow in the online space, your job is to make sure that you are constantly willing to get back in the trenches and essentially do the things that are really fucking hard.
Hmm.
Have the hard conversations, take the big risks, and make it so that your customers, your patients, and your employees feel like this is the best thing in the world while you're sitting there just holding the weight of it on your shoulders, because you feel that the mission behind your company or the company that you work for, the reason that it exists, is so incredibly powerful that you are so adamant that you want to see this succeed, that you are willing to step into those shoes and do all the heavy lifting. That's the only thing that's going to make you qualified as a CEO.
Yep.
Hmm.
I love that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a shift that you guys are making right now. Okay, and I'm sure you're cool with kind of talking about some of this, but the a big shift of like, and I think a lot of coaches in even like the 5 to 8 thousand dollar a month range, they see a lot of times, like you guys have seen as you grew and grew and grew and grew, is like you'll have these massive months, right? Like for that level of coach, it might be like they might hit 15K and then they might hit 4K the next month, and then because they're trying to fulfill what they just sold and paid in fulls,
Yep.
right? And then they might have a 20K month and then it might go down to 2K because and it's like ups and downs, like drastic ones that are because they're exclusively selling paid in fulls. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what you guys have kind of built your business off of for the first couple of years of NBS. And now you guys are making a change. Talk about that kind of change and what that's going to look like and do for the company. Like why?
Talk to me. Tell me those swing numbers again, and then I'm gonna shoot. I'm gonna for those listening. I'm gonna show you some ouch. Just tell me those swing numbers.
Yeah, the swing numbers, the examples that I gave was like going from like the 5 to 8 range to like 15 and then 5 and then
Okay.
20 and then 2.
Okay. Last November, try going from 120 last November to sub 30 in January.
Yep.
Try going from 89 last September to sub 22 in October.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk about that.
Yep.
Um, so there's right now, Baker and I were just talking. We're in the mud right now. We're in the mud. We hired a consulting company because we realized if we do want to grow and scale the way we want to, there is no version of reality where Jennifer and I can create the space and the bandwidth to look at the company from not only a bird's eye view, from an internal view to a bird's eye view to a 5 year to a 1 year. We cannot find that space, nor can we do the things that we need to right now to take the baby steps to get there. Because when we wake up every morning, especially if it's the last day of the month or the first day of the month, is what calls are on the books? How many leads do we have coming in? Where are we at with how are we gonna make payroll? When you have that level of stress, and I want you guys listening right now, I'm just a mid-30s dad. I'm engaged. I've got a future stepdaughter. I've got a widowed mother. Um, I'm just a normal dude. I'm just a normal dude. Okay.
Mhm.
when you have a $50,000 a month payroll overhead, but 50K, and you start the month at zero every single month, you are never going to start or even be able to genuinely think about customer fulfillment. Fuck customer acquisition.
Yep.
Customer fulfillment, because that customer fulfillment, I promise you, if you're worried about what's coming in the door, every single, like, there's all the pressure on that, your customer fulfillment sucks. I don't care how good you think it is.
Well, you're
I
just
thought
starting
ours
from
was,
behind every
yeah,
month.
I thought our customer fulfillment was fucking great. Till we really started diving in, and I was like, oh my god, our customer fulfillment could be so much better. So before I even focus on lead, like not even lead generation, on quality leads, I need to focus on building the customer experience to be something so incredibly knockout, life changing, overwhelmingly impactful that the next part that we're talking about is lead generation. It should be from those customers
Yeah.
because it's so impactful. But if you wake up every month because you're selling paid in fulls, paid in fulls, paid in fulls, guess what? You're starting at zero. But there's a
Hmm.
fine line to dance in right now. I'll be completely candid. We're hurting real bad. We're hurting real
Hmm.
bad because we're trying to find this dance right now of while we're in Baker's seeing it, we're essentially rebuilding the entire infrastructure of the company. The entire infrastructure. We built a whole new sales deck. I mean, the entire infrastructure. Top of funnels changing, like everything. But you have to find this fine dance where you have to build your MRR. So for the coaches that are doing paid in fulls now, don't just jump ship and flip. Okay,
Yep.
we're finding, and it's not hard. It's not easy. But you got to find that balance where you go, okay, where's the lowest hanging fruit that I can flip MRR without shooting myself in the foot. But for most of you out there, it's going to be both in the same because it's going to be your current client base.
Yep.
But your current client base is also your lowest hanging fruit for getting paid in fulls when they renew. But if your goal is to increase your MRR, first thing that I had to come to terms with was if that is the goal, why is that the goal? That's the goal because I want to be able to create a space where 50, 60, 70, 80, or 100% of our overhead is covered in MRR every month. Right now, we're at about 25% in like 30 days, 30% in 30 days. Okay. It's good, but that's also, what is it? Taking from Peter to give to Paul or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. But the way we did it is we looked at our client base and we went, okay, can we flip these people just straight to MRR? Cool. Okay. But that came with a set of problems because that's usually around this time of month where we get a lot of big cash flow. So with new clients, we're finding a dance where it's like, okay, we try to find after they fill out an application and they book a call, we try to dig a little deeper. Just a very general question. Hey, just so I know the packages that will be most suited to you. Are you the kind of person that typically likes to just pay for things and get out of the way? Or do you like to have a subscription where you pay it over time? Awesome. Now we know that information. So great. If they're the paid in full type, no problem. Let's show you the paid in full. Holy fuck, that's a big number. No problem. What's the downsell? We show you the enrollment fee plus the monthly. The
Hmm.
enrollment fee plus the monthly, you're like, ooh, like that's like, okay, great. Let's show you the big nut and tell you that you can break it up with the firm. So, but it's a very fine dance that I am learning right now, um, and it's fucking terrifying.
Hmm.
But you, at the end of the day, the only reason, like right now, genuinely, I'm like, I'll take a mortgage out on a house, to get through the end of the year if I have to. Is key is what is the why behind going to MRR? And if it's because I don't want to wake up stressed on the first, no, wrong, you're gonna fail. If it's well, I don't worry about the money. I don't want to worry about the money. No, wrong, you're gonna fail. What is your why for creating the MMR? If your why for creating the MMR is so that you can give back to your current client base, so that you can give back to your free community without hoping, without doing it with the intent of I'm doing this so we get more
Them
leads.
buying.
Fucking
Yeah.
obviously you're gonna get more leads, but your intrinsic of like I want to give back. If it's to create more time for yourself to spend with your family, if the why is about the money, if you're chasing the money, guess what? You're gonna fall flat on your fucking face. That's the money is the quantifiable number. Your why because it's going to be fucking hard. It's going
Mm-hmm.
to be fucking hard. And the only thing that I can go, keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. Because I can look at the projections of if we convert this many current clients to MRR, if we acquire, we would only need to acquire, let's say, I think we figured out if we signed up 10 new members a month on the new MRR, that means every 60 days, we've added $15,000 to our MRR. No. Yeah, every 60 days, we're adding another $15,000 to our MRR. So if nobody leaves, no, in 9 days. If nobody leaves, that means our MRR, if we did that successfully, went from an added 15,000. Now that 15,000 is compounded, so now our MRR is 30,000 off of new
Yep.
clients. And by 90 days, now that MRR is 45,000 by 90 days. And of course, there's churn rate and things like that. But okay, so if you keep an 80% retention rate, watch that grow.
Yep.
Watch that grow. But in doing so in an MRR model, and this is what I think, Baker, you've seen, it can't be the value that they get from that has to be so palatable, tangible, and so over the top delivered
Mm-hmm.
that there's no question that after their 6 month subscription, oh yeah, I can go month to month and pay the same rate, but like if I commit to another 6 months, you take off 10%. Well, yeah, I'm obviously going to stick around for 6 more months. Like, why wouldn't I?
Yep.
Why wouldn't I? But you have to paint that picture for them.
Yeah, you do. You absolutely do. Felicity, did you have a question?
I not necessarily a question. I just wanted to take out some really important notes that at least I got from what you were talking about. And one big thing is like your why has to be bigger than you, especially when starting an entrepreneurial journey and owning your own business. Even when it doesn't even apply to MRR, if that's not even in a like a scope of range for those solo entrepreneurs right now, your why has to be bigger than you. Because going back to like your first portion that you were talking about, Bradley, when you're like as a CEO or as a business owner in general, your job is to take the hardest tasks and deal with those. Um, and everything is, and as you scale, those tasks become harder and harder and harder. So if your why is not bigger than the money, if your why is not bigger than just like living lavishly or whatever your goals are, you're not going to be able to make that mark to become that CEO and to own this successful business that you want to own, which I
Mm-hmm.
think is a huge point for no matter where you are in your journey, whether you are still a solo entrepreneur or if you have one or two people working for you or a big company. Every step of the way, your why has to be bigger than just something about yourself. Which was I just wanted to make that note because I thought that was really important that everyone
Yeah,
needs to hear and understand.
I love that. I,
Yeah, I
I
mean, look,
think the
I can ask you two. Okay, I can ask you two. If I said right now, give me a dollar value that's in retirement accounts or your own personal accounts that you would go, I would feel comfortable not working another day in my life solely on the dollar value that you have. Is there a number?
I've always had one in my head.
What's the number?
For me, it's 10 mil.
Okay, 10 mil. Why 10?
Because even at 5-6% interest, you can pull a you can just live off the interest of that, and it never depletes, basically.
Okay. Okay. Why 10 mil?
For that reason, because that ends up being like 250 to $500,000 a year in just interest. You can just live off the interest that it builds.
Cool. Let's talk about inflation. Throw that into the mix. Now your numbers are skewed.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah,
I'm gonna go
exactly.
back to it. Okay, so you said another number. You said 250 to 500. You could live off of
Mhm.
that. Okay.
If
So
it all depends, there's so many variables, so
okay,
many
okay,
variables.
okay. But why the 250 to 500 to live off of? Why that? I'm curious.
Um,
Is it
I don't
because
know. Just
it would
I feel
be
like
it
it
would
would,
cover?
as of right now, it would give me kind of like a good enough lifestyle to sustain, really.
Okay. What is the most important part of that lifestyle that you're shooting for?
I think the most important part really is just making sure my family's taken care of and good.
Okay. If your family's taken care of, but you got to work like a dog, like you are now, would you be happy?
Um, no.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask the question again. Why the 250 to 500?
I guess so that I don't have to work like a dog once that point hits.
So if I said, Baker, you can have the life you want, where, let's be honest, as entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
business owners, whatever, the reason we do this is because we want to build a life where we are in control of the one thing that most people aren't, is time.
Yep.
If I said, Baker, if it was a number that you can't perceive, not saying big or small, take 10 mil off the table. If you gauged your retirement by your lifestyle, how many days do you wake up, Baker, and do you do what you want to do first?
Not as many as I'd like.
Felicity?
I would say the same exact thing. Not there yet.
I love that question because it took me a long time to answer because I was always like, I thought it was number two. I thought it was number two. And it hit me after I had my daughter. I said, I want to wake up in the morning one day and I want to realize that more days than not for 365 days that I didn't grab this first. Or if I did grab it, I looked at it and I went, okay, I'm going to go make pancake breakfast with Kay.
Yeah.
And when I get home, I'm going to pick up Jennifer and we're going to go to a little coffee shop. We're going to have a little coffee. We'll hang out. And yeah, sure, if there's stuff to do, like, we'll take care of it. But the day that I get to wake up and I am in most control of my time, whatever number that is, that's what I'm shooting for. And I think that's what all of us are actually shooting for.
I agree.
Because we know from this side of the table, there is nothing luxurious. I don't care. Like, you saw Mike on the you went to the Friends thing in the helicopter. People see me on planes all the time. It looks one way. I can tell you right now, I've had a panic attack. I've had a hold down a panic attack for the first time in years, once a week for the last 5 weeks. I've worked more hours doing all the shit that I don't want to because I know that I want what I'm doing now, $120,000 a month, $30,000 a month, $80,000 a month, $20,000 a month. There is no serenity. There's no peace. There is no version of reality where that volatile swing is ever going to give me the life that I get to wake up and go, not even get to choose with my time. I get to choose what to think about today.
Yeah. Yeah. I think really what we're kind of getting into is the discussion of, like you and I have talked about before, Bradley, like if you build, there's certain ways that you can build a business that ends up building you a somewhat of a prison.
Yep.
Right? That it's hard to escape from. And then there's certain ways that you can build a business that it provides the freedom that you're looking for. And what you're trying to do is restructure into that freedom idea. But I do think it's important. It's an important question, and we can kind of leave you guys with this. One thing that I've posed to more coaches than I've not posed it to, especially with the ones that I work with, right, that are doing, 10, 15, 20 plus per month, is a lot of times whenever you cross those numbers, you can do it by yourself, and then it becomes this crossroad of, do I switch and do I hire 5 coaches, 10 coaches, and then and grow this thing to 50, 60, 70, $130,000 a month, right? Or do I maybe hire like one coach and an assistant, and then I get 20 hours back in my week, I'm collecting almost the same amount of income, and I have less stress. And I think it's wired into all of us to think that we have responsibility to scale as big as possible and have as big of a team as possible. And I've had coaches where I've kind of been like, hey, these are the two lives that do you want to be a business owner or do you want to be a coach? Because those are 2 different lives, right? Because if you just want to be a coach, let's keep you at 15 grand a month. You're going to live a great life. You can raise your prices and you can lower the amount of clientele that you're working with. You can have 30 people paying you $500 a month, and you can be working 15 hours a week. All right, making 15 grand. I say that's pretty good.
It's pretty damn good.
Or You can become a business owner where you have to remove yourself from working with clients altogether. You're going to be probably the face of the company, and you're
The
going to be
last thing
running a
paid.
team of people who are going to be dependent upon you. And you're going to be responsible for making sure those people have food on the table,
Yep.
making sure everybody's happy all the time,
Yep.
dealing with any type of income disputes and all that, like all the stuff that comes with a business. Like, do you want to be a business owner or do you want to be a coach? And that's a question that all of us, if you're on this live, you're going to have to, answer for yourself. And there's no right or wrong answer because there are people that
No.
enjoy the business side of things more. I would say I'm one of those people where it's like I enjoy the challenge. Yeah, you sometimes you just get kicked and kicked and kicked. Like sometimes it sucks, just like any other job, right? But I'm one of those people that I really enjoy the business side of the challenges. And so I would pick one path, whereas other people, they got into this coaching because they really love coaching. And that's the only reason that they're here.
Yep.
And that person, not saying they can't scale, but they shouldn't scale to the point where they're going to have to take on all the business stuff because that's going to provide them the opposite of that happiness and freedom that you're talking about here, Bradley.
Yeah. And you can look, and just because it's going back to the original question, when you ask someone that question, and like Baker, I believe you. Felicity, I don't even have to ask you the question. I believe you. There is a bridge between the two, because you step onto the business side, the first thing you got to come to terms with is, am I ready to be the first one? Am I ready to be the last one that gets paid?
Yep.
Am I ready to be the last one that gets paid? And if you can answer yes, then the next answer shouldn't be too hard. Is your why more than money? Because if you're willing to be the last one that gets paid, I'm not saying that money is not important to you. I'm saying your why is bigger than money. Because if you go a step into the business side and you're like, oh, but I'm working on the business things, the biggest thing that you're still working on though is you're trying to create something bigger, and you're trying to have a much deeper understanding of your audience and your client base. Because your job now is to think before they need, to create before they need, to see and understand their pain at such a deep rooted level that you can then train your staff to work with them at that level, so
Yep.
that when they come to your program, they see why it's different, because you're not just doing the taxes, the this, that. No, your job, like when people ask, what do you do for work? I always kind of laugh. I'm like, I, I solve problems and I think.
Yeah.
Like I like and I sign paychecks and set fires and then hire people to put them out. I'm like, what is my main job? Is to think about how to make the customer experience better. And what is the first thing is, and I just did this. We just did this with Jennifer 6 weeks ago. We went back and looked at our customers and did like a full 14-day deep dive on trying to truly understand what they want, what they need, and how we need to deliver to them in a way that they feel heard, understood, and so they can understand in a palatable way.
Mm-hmm.
That's your job. And if you're willing to do that, yeah, step into the worst job in the world.
Yeah.
You're essentially
Absolutely.
Amazon, knowing what
Yeah.
people's wants and needs are before they
The
need.
only time being a CEO is good is when you get to step out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, I think this has been an awesome talk, and I appreciate you, Bradley, just being so raw and talking about the transitions and all the stuff
Of course.
that you guys are kind of, overcoming now. And it's cool to, I think it's either going to be refreshing or a little bit scary to hear that even whenever, people can hear 120, 130 grand a month and be like, oh, first world problems, this guy's complaining about making that much money. And it's like, the basis is true at the same numbers that I was talking about earlier, the swings, right? And so it's basically just asking yourself those questions that Bradley's talked about, that I've talked about, that Felicity has talked about, and figuring out the path that you want to go down, and rocking with that path and figuring out and learning along the way. You're going to have these forks on the road that Bradley's talking about him going down right now. Mike and I have had to do many of those with AR as we've built and scaled AR. And they're going to be tough things that you encounter. It's not all glorious, right? It's not all glamorous, and you have to be able to overcome them and have the resilience to get through them. And Bradley, I have no doubt that you guys will continue to do so as you have your entire career thus far.
Biggest thing, ready? I'll leave you guys with this.
Okay.
if you guys get into business, if you guys are into the online space, if you guys left your 9 to 5, you got to go in with one mindset. If you guys have kids, it's not hard. If you don't have kids, it's probably a little harder. How Baker has it, Felicity, I think you're around Baker's age. I got a decade on probably both of them. There's no plan B. There's no plan B. There's no safety net. There's no plan B. And I have not had a plan B since I started MBS. I've always had a plan B. There is no plan B. And that's the only thing that keeps us. We're Team Chaos in a Box, Team Zombie Apocalypse, we're Nutrition Build Strength. There is no plan B because I will die empty making this work, and I will die empty making sure this is an impact.
I love it, dude. Love it.
Incredible.
You inspire me. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a busy guy, and we're excited to conquer this with you, man.
All right, you guys. I'll talk to you later.
All right.
Bye,
Thanks,
everybody.
guys.
Bye.
Cool.
B, will you send me the recording?